Hello and welcome everybody, this is Colby Cheese, and I'm doing a game review for Defiance, the new MMO third-person shooter by Tryon Worlds. These guys are normally a developer of free-to-play games, which can actually be apparent because not only do you have to pay top dollar for the game itself, but you can also pay for boosts and skin changes and whatnot within the game. So Defiance is actually setting out to be a really immersive game into the world and the lore itself, because not only do you have the game, but it's also being released alongside the TV series debuting on Sci-Fi Channel. So you're being placed into a post-apocalyptic San Francisco Bay Area, which is surrounded by mutants and hellbound creatures, bandits, evil cyborgs, and all of their robotic companions. So pretty interesting situation overall. The developers actually did a pretty good job of giving you regular cutscenes throughout the story, and everything is fully voiced. There's a lot of action to keep you on your toes and whatnot.
Now, Torque! Now! Target's found! Get clear!
But the question, of course, is, with a game like this that has a AAA price tag, is it worth it? And what can you actually expect out of the gameplay itself? Alright, so let's take a look. The game is, again, an MMO TPS. That's right, I don't actually call it an MMORPG because it's not an RPG. There is actually no leveling up in the traditional sense. In fact, a max level gun in the game is going to have the same damage stats as like a level 1 gun that you're going to be getting for the most part. So instead of levels, what you have is an ego rating, which will actually cap out at around 5,000 currently. Getting higher ego allows you to unlock additional perks, which will give you various bonuses to your character. Reduce damage taken when your shields are down, or you get bonuses to damage while you're crouched, or some group play bonuses like you take reduced damage for a while after you revive an ally. There's one that gives you increased movement speed once your shields recharge, things such as that. And also at higher ego ratings, you're going to be getting guns that require that particular ego rating, similar to a level. And even though the gun is going to have the same damage stats as a level 1 gun, there's a system in place where after you use a gun for a certain amount of time, you're going to level up the experience on that particular weapon, and then you're going to unlock a little bit of a bonus for it. So at higher ego rating, you're going to have bigger bonuses on that gun. So that is how they're going to make being higher ego rating more powerful than being lower. But what they're trying to do is make it so that there's not this giant difference for some character that's been playing the game for a really long time, so that if you go into PvP with them, you can actually compete and things like that. The gameplay actually most closely resembles Borderlands, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. You've got a shield that will recharge when you're not taking damage, and it recharges like a certain percentage every so many seconds depending on which shield you equip. There's a grenade slot which is on a cooldown. You can throw out one grenade, and then cools down, you can throw another one. They actually limit you to only 2 weapon slots, and so this makes choosing the correct set of guns an important tactical decision. Regardless of that fact though, I did carry around various different types of guns in my inventory, which I would swap out based on the situation, although it is very difficult to do that if you're in the actual middle of combat. So you have to make sure that you have the right guns for the fight that you're about to go into, and then later on, if you're like, well, I'm about to fight a bunch of bugs, let me switch to a grenade launcher before I go into that fight. I mean, that works out pretty well. So overall, in a sense, Borderlands 2 is actually more of an MMO or RPG than this game, because the loot and the gear is a lot more simplified here in this game. There's no class mods per se for anything, and there's no armor or anything like that. But you can, however, find mods that will enhance your weapons a little bit. So that is kind of the upgrade path that they're going to have you take. Personally, I'm a pretty big fan of loot-based games. You know, I like to be able to find really cool gear and upgrade my character and stuff like that. So while this game does not offer that, I still did have a lot of fun with the very small amount of customization that there is in the game. So speaking of customization, there's a few options to customize your character in the beginning screen. Not really as much as you would expect from a traditional MMO game or anything like that, but throughout the missions and from unlocking achievements and even in the cash shop, you can actually unlock outfits which don't give you any bonuses actually, but they'll make your character look kind of interesting. My favorite outfit actually I used for the later half of the game was a miner suit, which basically made me look like a dirty worker, and I didn't have a shirt on, and I'm this big buff dude, so I thought it was kind of fitting for my particular character, and it was just kind of funny to watch this miner walk around with this big jackhammer on his back the whole game. Aiming in this game is very simple. There is no cursor sway when zooming down the barrel, and the accuracy actually seems very on point unless you're using like a shotgun, or if you're firing an increased recoil rapid fire gun, which makes you like fire all over the place and you have to kind of hold down the cursor correctly. So overall, it wasn't too hard to actually just sit there and get headshots with sniper rifles and things like that. There are 4 ego abilities that you can choose from that can give you an advantage in combat in addition to just firing guns. There's a cloak, which is similar to what you would see in Borderlands with Zero, in addition to going stealth, obviously. It will also recharge your shields very quickly, so it's good to use if you're in battle and you're getting pounded on and you're like, oh crap, lost my shields, boom, go in cloak, now I'm safe. There's another one which I actually used the entire game called Decoy, and this sends out like an alternate version of yourself which just keeps running in the direction that you're facing, and all the enemies will be taunted into attacking that decoy. And if you choose to, you can actually press the button again and it'll swap places with you and your decoy, so you can actually use the decoy to like run to a dangerous area that you need to get to, or run past like a field of enemies that are shooting at you, and once it gets to the piece of cover that you want, you can swap with your decoy. So it's kind of interesting. There's another ability that will be called Blur, and it makes you run super fast, and eventually with the right amount of perks, you can actually make yourself do a lot of extra melee damage with that one. So that one was actually pretty cool. I was thinking of getting that one later on just to run around faster. And then finally there's an adrenaline type ability which allows you to do a lot of extra damage on your guns for a short period of time. Early on in the game, you are given an ATV that you can roll around in, so it's not like you have to wait really far into the game to get a vehicle to traverse the landscape, which is great because, I hate walking long distances in MMO games. That's like one of my big pet peeves of playing these MMOs, is they like try and extend your playtime by making you walk for like a mile before you can do anything. But in this game, there's a vehicle and you can roll around, you can do wheelies off of terrain, and there's a booster on it. It's actually a lot of fun to drive around, and that's pretty cool. One thing I didn't actually recognize until way later in the game is that you can also fast travel to some of the main locations after you've explored them. So I actually ended up spending almost the entirety of the game traveling on my ATV everywhere I went, and it wasn't actually that bad. So pretty interesting. They made the open world aspect of the game at least bearable. Not only can you have an ATV in this game, but you can also get this little dune buggy type thing, and for people who pre-order the game, or you can go into the cash shop, there's like a Dodge Challenger that you can pick up, which is pretty cool. It's an actual car you drive around. And overall, the thing that I like least about this game is the menu system. I think it kind of sucks, actually. The full screen menu is a little bit annoying when you're in battle. You want to like look at your inventory or something like that, and you can't see what is going on around you. You're just getting shot by stuff, and you're like, oh, I'm in the menu, blah, blah, blah. Or you're trying to like look at the social menus in the game. Like you wanna message somebody, you have to basically go out of combat somewhere. So it really does suck. The actual inventory itself is just a long list of items. I didn't really enjoy that either, but overall it's bearable. I mean, you can get past it. Essentially, I just try and spend very little amount of time in those menus. It was obvious that they actually designed this menu for the consoles. There's a radial menu that you can pull up, which is great if you're using a controller. However, with a keyboard and mouse, it's like, what? Why am I doing this? I don't understand. The missions themselves aren't going to really immerse you any more than some other MMOs, but they do have a really nice go, go, go feel to them. I was able to grab a mission and then run straight to the objective early on and just do the standard like click and hold to complete the objective and then move on to the next mission. While occasionally I would clear out some enemies on my way, but later on into the game, the difficulty did go up quite a bit as the enemies have shields and they're actually heavily armored. They got robots, there's dudes up on roofs with sniper rifles. You peek your head out for like a second and bam, they shoot you down. And so it got pretty interesting for a while. Also, enemies will be just popping out from every nook and cranny everywhere. If you're familiar with Borderlands style combat, once again, you know, enemies will like jump out of a shed constantly and it's like a little clown car of enemies that just keeps coming out for you. So you have to kind of look out for that. If you try and run too fast to complete a mission and enemies start spawning behind you and in front of you, then there's no cover for you to get into. So I don't know, it kind of kept me on my toes later on in the game once harder enemies started to pop out and whatnot. So I thought it was actually really interesting once I got to certain missions. They did a really good job of giving you these epic boss fights and things like that. So I think that the game kind of started off slow, but then I started to get more immersed into it the later on into the game that I got. Because, I mean, there's these dungeons, I guess you can call them, they're co-op missions. And some of the craziest boss fights that I've seen will pop out of there, and there's like this giant, like cyborgy mutant mofo that comes out with this big hammer and he's like, "Rah!" and he's gonna smash you, and you gotta run around and shoot him in these specific crit points and things like that to do damage to him. So overall, I had a lot of fun with these big epic boss fights. You can also be roaming around in the open world, and there's these random arc fall events where this like thing will drop down out of the sky and then all these bugs are flying out everywhere and like all these people come and they're trying to like blow up this crystal, and there's these big bugs that jump out and start shooting you, and it can get pretty interesting at times. So I have to give them credit. They did a great job of making the game feel quite epic at points into it. So I really did enjoy that quite a lot. Overall, I definitely had a positive experience with the content that I played through. And I think that I've definitely gotten my money's worth out of the game so far. I've put in about 30 hours, which is about how long it took me to beat Borderlands, actually. So if you're comparing it, which I am, to a game like Borderlands, then you would say, I'd say it's just about as good. And obviously it doesn't have the humor, but it's more of the immersion factor into this, you know, this whole world and the storyline that is going to be getting you, I think. Now, overall, I'm not sure how much longevity the game holds. I've actually already beat the game. It's you know, if it's considered an MMO, and I've only been playing it for, you know, 2 or 3 days, I've already beat all the content in the game. So at this point, I have the option of participating in PvP matches, global arcfall events, which will just happen all over the place, or I can run around and do dungeons once again to unlock more achievements. There's a list of achievements and goals that you can do not only within dungeons, but in the open world where you have to go find certain things and just complete all of these optional missions or, you know, whatever stuff like that. So, I mean, that's something I can go do. I'm not sure how long that's going to keep me intrigued, but overall, I am looking forward to additional DLCs that they're going to be putting out in the future. And obviously, once the show is released, I think they're going to be doing some missions that correspond with the show as well, some like episode missions and things like that. So that is something to definitely keep an eye out for. As far as progressing late game and getting better gear, the only way I've seen to actually get I guess the best quote-unquote gear that you can in the game is through these lock boxes, which you buy from the vendor. And these lock boxes are just you use like 2 or 3 different resources to accumulate these like keys to unlock the boxes, and then they have a chance at giving you you know, rare guns, which will just have like extra bonus stats. Like maybe it'll give you like, when you reload this gun, you have, you know, reduced cooldown on your ego ability, or, you know, like certain things like that, but nothing to do with like the damage itself or whatever. Again, like I said, the damage stats are always going to be pretty much the same on a high level gun and a low level gun or whatever. So, so overall, I enjoyed the game. It was a great experience. If I'm trying to look at the game like it is like this over-encompassing MMO that I'm going to spend weeks and weeks and weeks playing, I probably wouldn't say that it is. But if I look at it objectively as, hey, they made a cool third-person shooter with an interesting storyline then I think that they hit the mark right there. And so I would recommend it if you guys, enjoy third-person shooters and you're looking for an interesting storyline and you're a sci-fi fan, you want to watch the show, you're probably going to be pleased with this and you won't be let down. So anyways, guys, hopefully you enjoyed. This is my, review, first impressions of the game so far, and I'll probably do a few more videos as I play the game and show you off some more specific components of it. If you enjoyed this and you want to see some more reviews of other games, make sure you subscribe to my channel, as I'll be doing a lot more. Alright guys, this is Colby Cheese. I'll see you around next time. Peace out.